my mom encouraged me actually to try to launch it. And she's like, hey, like you love these, why don't you see if other people love them? And so ended up launching and yeah, kind of where we are today.
Hello and welcome to Starting Small. My name is Nagle, and what you're about to hear is a resilient story to an entrepreneur's journey over the brand that we know and consume today. At Starting Small, I believe that everyone has a story to tell under one philosophy. Everyone starts small. Even these founders have once started where you are, in their parents' kitchen, basement, out of a wagon, and many more. At Starting Small, we discuss the strategies used, the obstacles overcome, and the successes of an entrepreneur's journey. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this episode of Starting Small, and make sure to leave a review to let us know how you enjoyed it. Thank you for tuning in to Starting Small. Today, I'm joined by Brittany Charlton of Ohh Foods. Brittany, thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Of course. So I'd like to start out with your upbringing. Where did you grow up, and what would you say your childhood was like?
Yeah, I grew up in Toronto, or I'd say like Markham, Ontario, smaller town. My childhood was like I went to daycare, and it was very much so about creating a world where like you could do whatever you wanted. So there was like radio broadcasting there. There was like pop-ups every night if you wanted to like sell something at the front of the daycare. There's just so many different things that you could do there. And that's one of the things I did. I took advantage of. I found out I didn't love like radio broadcasting, but I loved the pop-ups and selling different things. So I would create like pillows for my friends' dolls, and all my friends wanted them, or I created them for my dolls and my friends wanted them. And so then I would start to sell them to their parents, and then they would buy them. And then like we'd custom make them. Like my mom would help me every night, like custom make them to like our friends' dolls, like names and everything. So it was really, really cool. But yeah, I think that was like my majority of my childhood is just like, that's what I remember.
Definitely. So what age would you say you acquired that entrepreneurial mindset where you started selling these pillows and these dolls? What time span would you say that was?
Yeah, I was in daycare from like 7 to 10 years old.
Wow. So I'm assuming that you had a lot of parent assistance when doing this, and then you would sell the products as well?
Yeah, my mom was very much so like, anything you want to try, let's try it. If it doesn't work, it's fine. Like it's not a big deal. So I think like I started off with like making GIMP letters actually. And I would make that for my friends' parents. Like they would be like, hey, my name starts with an M, make me an M. And then my mom would buy me like the books and the GIMP, and then I'd figure out how to, make the letters and all that stuff. So it was really fun. But yeah, I just grew up in a very, like in a very encouraging environment where it's like, hey, try this out. If it doesn't work, that's fine. But then also remembering to stay committed to like the commitments that you chose to do. So if you said yes to someone, that you're going to follow through on it.
Definitely. So as time progressed and then you approached college, I know you went to Durham College. What was your pursuit? What did you want to do, and what did you aspire to do when you entered college at that time prior to Ohh Foods?
Good question. So I think when you go through the school system at that time wasn't like, hey, let's start a business, right? It was very much so like, what do you want to become? Okay, you need to become like a doctor, a lawyer, something along those lines. It wasn't like, oh yeah, I want to run a business, or, now it's very different, but it wasn't like that before. So I think once I came out of daycare and I started going through the school system, I started to change my mindset, and I was like, okay, well, what do I want to become? And I never really thought that having my own business was like an option. And so I chose to go down the law route. One of my aunts is a lawyer, and I thought that was so cool. And so I wanted to become a lawyer. And so I started looking into that. And I really liked like criminal shows at that time. And just like, I thought I wanted to become a criminal lawyer. I think she does corporate law, but I wanted to become a criminal lawyer, and I just thought that was like the coolest thing. And then I like, obviously as I started to grow up, I started to like be really scared about the things I was watching, and like actually becoming aware that this is like not a joke. It's actually happening in real life. And then I was like, okay, I don't want to become a criminal law lawyer, but I want to become like a family law lawyer. And so anyway, went to school, for law clerking because I wanted to learn the basics of like all the documentation first, and then go to law school. And so yeah, I did that, and then I graduated. I did my co-op, and I realized that was not what I wanted to do with my life. And even if I went the lawyer route and I finished at the end, I just felt like family law is so like you're dealing with divorces essentially, not dealing with like great times, right? And so I just didn't want to wake up and be stone cold to individuals and people and be like, oh yeah, you're getting a divorce, let's get this done. And not have any emotion towards it. And then even just like scaling in general, I just realized as I continued to grow and go through Durham College, they had a program called Fast Start. And at the time I had an idea for hot chocolate. I had braces, and I, wanted to create hot chocolate that was like dairy-free, gluten-free, no added sugar. And I didn't have like any feeling on my teeth, like grittiness that you normally get with like Tim Hortons coffee. Or like hot chocolate or any hot chocolate anywhere realistically. But started making that, and Fast Start really helped me realize like having a business is a viable option again. And I think like, even like through speaking to individuals, like I forgot so much about my childhood and going to daycare and like those experiences. And I was just like so into like, okay, well, let's become a lawyer. That's what the world tells you to do, like they tell you to go be great, quote unquote, but like there's so many different versions of what that could look like.
Definitely. So you go through this program, Fast Start. I'm curious, once this concludes, where do you end up? Do you continue the pursuit that you built at that time, or where do you end up working?
Yeah. So when I went through Fast Start, I finished like college basically, and I went through Fast Start, and I was just talking to them about the idea, going through the whole like matrix of how this could become a possibility. I started getting into retail stores and with the hot chocolate, but then I realized it was a very seasonal business because Canadians don't normally have hot chocolate in the summer, obviously, and I wasn't going to be able to continue to scale as much as I want to. So started looking into other possibilities. I was already making these snacks for myself because I had a peanut and tree nut allergy I developed at 18, and then from there went and launched that product line.
Wow. Is this the introduction of Ohh Foods, or is this prior?
Yeah. This is the introduction of Ohh Foods. There's a couple of other things I tested out and tried to see if it worked, but that was, I think our snacking bites was the real introduction of Ohh Foods and launching.
Amazing. So you mentioned you had an allergy issue as well. I'm curious with that, of course, but what also was the inspiration towards launching your own snack business?
Yeah, it was just like trying to find my own snacks that I really loved. I'd make my own. Like I said, I was already making my own hot chocolate. I started making my own ice cream. Then I started making my own snacking bites. So I was just like, okay, how do I launch this onto the market and make it like, well, I guess my mom encouraged me actually to try to launch it. And she's like, hey, like you love these. Why don't you see if other people love them? And so ended up launching and kind of where we are today.
Amazing. So I'm curious also with the name, the launch of Ohh Foods, where does this name spark? 2018?
A lot of people ask me that, and it's honestly just I was having a hard time with the name, and I was like, what do I call this snack brand that I want to create? And I just had everyone like start trying snacks, and they're like, oh, this tastes good, or like they'd be like, oh, this like whatever. And so they kept saying oh, and I was like, oh, okay, it's going to be called Ohh Foods.
Amazing. So the official launch of Ohh Foods then, what were some of the first products that you created, and were they all created by yourself as well at the launch?
Yeah. So all of our products are created by me. So the first thing was hot chocolate, and that was really cool. The only thing with that I learned was it was like you use a lot, like how we made it was so that you use a lot less, but the Canadians are used to like using a spoonful of it. And so if you use a spoonful of it, it would become really, really bitter. And so that was that. But then the next thing was like ice cream, and it was like like made from fruits. I really loved going to the strawberry field at the back of my, like where I lived, and picking strawberries and then turning them into ice cream. And I don't know why I thought that would be a viable business, because obviously that field goes away in the summer, like after the summer. And so I realized that, and then I launched our snacking bites. And so, yeah.
I'm curious, from your POV, what does that R&D process look like when you're formulating a new product? How do you know if that food's going to taste? Is it just taste testing yourself? And how do you know what ingredients to use?
Yeah, so today it looks a little different, but I guess how I first started was honestly, I'd go to Bulk Barn, and I would buy a bunch of ingredients that I thought would be good in a product. So I would think about, okay, what do I want to get from this product? What flavor profile do I want? So for like a coconut brownie, I was like, okay, well, I want obviously coconut, and then I want a brownie taste, so let's get some cocoa in there. And then I wanted it to be like give you a kick of like a little bit of energy, but not too much. So there's like hemp seed in there. And then just like looking into like the ingredients, like what do you want in there? And then how do you get them in there to like form the product that you want. So that's really how I did it, honestly. And then for our apple pie bites, I was like, okay, well, let's get some apples, and then like I want some oats in there, and like I want it to taste, yeah, like an apple pie. So how do I get that? And that's really all I did, is just like figuring out what I want it to taste like and then reversing it from there. And we use like wholesome ingredients. So any one of our products, you could go and like buy the ingredients at the store and make it at home if you wanted to. So super simple ingredients is what we stand by.
Amazing. I'm curious, what were some of your main marketing strategies at launch? Maybe some food expos or booths or socials. How does that look for you? Because I know you guys have a specific voice defending allergy friendly foods. So how does that look, the marketing strategy?
Yeah, so there's a couple, I guess. One of them, we created something on our website called Oh Moments, where we were connecting with like food allergy moms or dads that had a story to tell about their child, or even just like an individual who had a story about their own food allergies. That was like how we first started, was like really starting to like learn about how this affects other people, like, and at what age they got their food allergy, and like the progression of the food allergy as well. Because, you know, some of them were really intense, and food allergies are really, really serious. So if you don't have like an EpiPen to help get you to the hospital, there could be fatal things that could happen, right? So
definitely.
We've learned so much through that. So that was like I would say that's like marketing, but it was also like a learning lesson of like how, like what happens when you have a food allergy, and like the different ways it affects different bodies and stuff. And then I'd say another way was Instagram. We posted a lot about our journey and just like what we were doing behind the scenes. That resonated a lot. Today it's very different. We use TikTok to kind of show behind the scenes of what we're doing. I use LinkedIn a lot to share like the journey of what we're doing, or if I'm looking for something. So like if I'm looking for a co-packer or a supplier, I'll reach out to people on LinkedIn just to see who has like a connection. And then what else? Oh, we still use Instagram. So
definitely.
And then we also use like word of mouth. So a lot of people like will try our products, love it, and then want to share it. And then like we don't really like do the typical influencer. Like if you have even 500 followers, I think you're an influencer, even 100, right? Because at the end of the day, people want to buy from their friends. They want to like, you know, hear from their friend that this is amazing. So we will typically connect with people who love our product, no matter what they like follower account they have, and see how we can get them to introduce it to their friends and get the word out from there.
Definitely. From all of those strategies mentioned, I'm curious, can you depict a specific demographic, would you say, for your products?
Yeah. So yeah, we can. So I would say anyone between the ages of 25 to about 40 is like our main market right now that we realize like really enjoy our snacks. Obviously people who are like over the age of 40 will go ahead and have it. But we realize also like young moms will buy our bites for their snack, like for their kids. I think like when we started doing a lot of like connections, we realized that moms will use it as like like their baby's first food, like our apple pie bites, and give them something to munch on during the day. And that was like really cool. Or just like, if they're going to like a park or anything like that. So I think like those insights are something that we couldn't have gotten if we didn't connect with our consumer to kind of find out, okay, like when are you giving this to your child, and why, right?
Yeah.
And then also like, are our pack sizes, do they make sense for you? So like our edible cookie dough, for example, a 360 gram tub is not going to make sense to take to a park.
Yeah.
Or like a play date, but then our 140 gram tubs that we just created, really mini and really cute to go in like a lunchbox, perfect fit, right?
Definitely. I'm curious, what would you say differentiates O Foods from your competitors, and what is your stance in your category?
Yeah. So we focus on being allergen friendly, vegan, and gluten free. So that's like the first thing that differentiates us from our competitors in the space. There's no other cookie dough on the market that, focuses in on that, like being allergen friendly, vegan, gluten free.
Mm-hmm.
They either do one or the other, and you're kind of like wondering, okay, what does this brand stand for? In terms of like, if they have, like, they say they're allergen friendly, but then they have a peanut flavor, that doesn't add up for the consumer in terms of like believing that you're truly allergen friendly, right?
Definitely.
So that's something that we differentiate ourselves on. The next thing is like very clean ingredients. So I try to make sure that we have ingredients in there that are simple, actually doing something for you and that you feel good. So for like our cookie dough, we use flaxseed instead of using eggs, obviously just to make it safe to eat, but also making it like functional. And then we also go ahead and change out the flour for oat flour. We use Himalayan salt. I cannot say that word for some reason, but we use better for you salt. So it's like pink salt. What else do we use? We use like corn-free baking soda, alcohol-free vanilla, like pure vanilla extract. So it's like real vanilla instead of like imitation vanilla, which would be cheaper, obviously, if we used imitation. But just using like true wholesome ingredients is really something that we stand by. And then the last thing is just making sure that the consumer is heard. So when we think about product lines, how are we expanding and what are we doing? Like, we don't want to be a Me Too product. So we looked at the market and we really believe in inclusive snacking. So whatever you see out there, it's like, okay, if there's already cookie dough in the market, how do we make it so that it's inclusive snacking and you can have it, you have food allergies or not? It's just a better for you cookie dough that's sitting on the market. So we just look at like, how can we better the market instead of adding another cookie to the market, right?
Definitely.
Added a cookie dough. And then instead of adding like, I don't know what other things, like bites, so snacking bites, instead of following our other competitors and being like, well, they launched a cracker, so let's launch a cracker. Like, we figure out how can we actually make a difference instead of just like following along with our competitors, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. From the customer's POV, what does logistics look like? Are all of your products shelf stable? I know you mentioned an alternative for eggs, say shipping to a retailer or shipping to a home. How does that work?
Yeah. So our products are shelf stable. Our cookie dough is shelf stable for 60 days. So shipping to a home, we ship our cookie dough regular. And then when it arrives, we ask that you put it in the fridge.
Okay.
And then our snacking bites are shelf stable for 10 months. So you're good to go there. Essentially, they don't need to go in the fridge. They just go on the shelf. And that's just from having like wholesome, natural ingredients. Whatever you would have normally put in your cabinet literally is in that package, and we're able to put it in there now. And then for our cookie dough, if you put it in the fridge, it lasts for 12 months. So, and that's just from, again, having wholesome, clean ingredients. Yeah.
Definitely. What would you depict as your top seller, if you have an idea?
Yeah. So our top seller is birthday cake cookie dough. I think people are surprised by the fact that it literally smells like a party in a cup. Like it smells like birthday cake. As soon as you open it, it hits you. And that's our best seller for sure.
Amazing. Well, I like to conclude each episode with this. If you could share one piece of advice with an aspiring entrepreneur, maybe something you've learned or regret, what would you say that would be?
Yeah, I would say I think the biggest thing, like when I speak to different entrepreneurs and other people, is they often sit on the fence of like doing it or not doing it, or just like the in between of like when you're playing like hopscotch and you're kind of like, or like double dutch and you're like skipping rope and you're trying to figure out like,
Yeah.
do I jump in now or do I jump in later, kind of thing, instead of just jumping in like figuring it out as you go along. I think a lot of times business owners will like, or people who want to do something often play that game of like, okay, well, I want to get in, but then I don't want to get in. And then they play on this fence of like playing like all these scenarios that are going to go on and like that are not actual reality, right? Like, oh, I
Yeah.
think I'm going to fail, or, oh, I think, I don't have enough money, or all these things that you think in your head. But like, I think something that someone said to me is like whatever you think is actually true. So if you think that you can't do something, you can't do it. And that's just what it is, right?
Yeah.
But if you sat there saying like, well, I can do this, and like, how do I do it? I think it just shifts in your mind. So I think the first thing I tell people that I learned is really like picking up a mindful book that's going to help you with like thinking deep about how can I, first of all, emotionally regulate yourself, but then also how do I think in a world that might be telling me I can't do something, and believe in myself.
Definitely. Well, Brittany, thank you so much for joining me today. And to the listeners out there, make sure to check out O Foods at ofoods.com.